The BBC has given airtime to a police officer who confidently asserts that child grooming gangs are not predominantly made up of Pakistani men. However, a closer look at the clip, and more importantly, the data behind these claims, reveals just how quickly that argument falls apart. To begin with, the dataset being cited only covers the year 2024, a single year, offering nowhere near a comprehensive picture of the issue. Even more concerning, less than a third of the suspects listed in the report had their ethnicity recorded, making it an extremely weak foundation for drawing broad conclusions. The reality is that when we turn to wider studies and compare the data objectively, men of Pakistani descent are statistically up to 5 times more likely to be involved in these types of offenses compared to the general population. This is a clear and significant overrepresentation, one that any honest analysis must acknowledge. In this video, we're going to break down how the BBC and the voices it chooses to platform are shaping the narrative, and why an increasing number of people are fed up with the ongoing whitewashing of one of the UK's most serious scandals. I'll be dissecting what was said in that report and explaining why it's deeply problematic. But first, if you're interested in this kind of analysis, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Here's part of what was said. There is nothing more abhorrent than these crimes. They are horrific, appalling, and completely unacceptable. I'm not here to justify past mistakes, nor will I attempt to do so. What I can do is explain how policing works today, in partnership with other agencies, to protect vulnerable children, especially those who go missing. I believe that by 2025, we are far more alert to the signs and indicators of child exploitation. We work tirelessly alongside various organizations to better understand how this abuse manifests. Victoria, I know you have some data to share. Yes, we do. We have a dedicated task force for tackling child sexual exploitation, which has done critical work within the police to map out the scale of these crimes across England and Wales. I'd like to share some of that tonight. It's exclusive data your organization has provided for us. Over the course of 2024, group-based child sexual abuse, what's commonly referred to as grooming gangs, accounted for 17% of all group-based sexual offenses against minors. As for the ethnicity of suspects, the National Police Chiefs Council warns these numbers must be interpreted carefully, as less than a third of the cases included ethnicity data. Among the cases where ethnicity was recorded, just over half of the suspects were white British. Pakistani men, however, are notably overrepresented in the subset of cases where ethnic background is known. While roughly 1 in 40 people in England and Wales is of Pakistani origin, around 1 in 8 grooming gang suspects with known ethnicity fell into that demographic. And what do those figures tell you, Deputy Chief Constable Rick? They illustrate the volume and nature of reported crimes, cases that have been investigated to varying degrees. What they also show is that group-based offending comes in many different forms. While there's a strong focus on Pakistani heritage men involved in grooming, the data clearly shows that children face risks from multiple directions. I'd just like to point out, whenever there's an overrepresentation, whether based on gender, ethnicity, or anything else, it typically signals an underlying issue that needs to be addressed. And all of these issues must be addressed. I'm not here to downplay any form of this offending. These are deeply disturbing crimes, and they continue to take place today. The women in this discussion are talking about historic cases, but the numbers reflect incidents that are very much part of present-day society. This isn't isolated to one town or city either. The leader of the Conservative Party has stated that rape gangs are active in more than 50 towns across the UK. According to data collected from all 44 police forces, the vast majority, if not all, have reported some form of group-based offending. The Shadow Justice Secretary has suggested these crimes are mostly committed by British Pakistani men. Does your data support that claim? No, it doesn't. We can only go by the available data, and that's the foundation of our evidence. Of course, there is a segment of perpetrators who are Pakistani men, and we pursue those individuals relentlessly. And yes, they are overrepresented when you compare their numbers to the wider population. But it's also important to highlight that many children are at risk within their own homes and in institutional settings such as schools, youth clubs, or care facilities. I don't believe anyone has ever denied that. What do you think about this issue? Let me know in the comments below. In other news, Sir Keir Starmer's plans to transform the UK into a war-ready nation have been overshadowed by controversy surrounding their funding, as senior Labour Party figures have warned that tax increases will likely be necessary to cover the cost. A new defense review has warned that the country is entering a phase defined by emerging threats, prompting calls for a military restructuring to face potential armed conflicts. Ahead of the release of the review, the Prime Minister stated that the UK would move toward a stance of heightened military readiness, claiming the forthcoming report would lay the groundwork for a reinforced, combat-ready nation. Under these plans, the British Army is set to expand for the first time in decades, reaching at least 76,000 full-time personnel during the next Parliament, surpassing the previously recommended figure of 73,000. Although Starmer has expressed full confidence that the long-awaited Strategic Defence Review, SDR, will be implemented, several influential Labour voices, as well as economists, have cautioned that substantial tax increases will be unavoidable to fund the proposals. The director of the Institute for Fiscal Studies, speaking to Times Radio, warned that difficult budget cuts would be necessary, particularly in areas such as social welfare. Defense Secretary John Healey stated that he was fully confident the necessary funding would be secured, but stopped short of offering a formal commitment. He said, "We will never make new spending commitments without clearly explaining how they will be paid for." When asked by Times Radio whether that would mean tax hikes, he replied, "We'll outline the details of how future increases will be funded in due course." Meanwhile, Lord Robertson, former Labour Defence Secretary and Chief Architect of the review, warned that the public must be prepared to pay the price for keeping Britain safe. Former Foreign Secretary Sir James Cleverly, a senior Conservative figure, criticised the government's response to the SDR as lacking conviction. He remarked, "Broadly, it seems we're heading in the right direction, but why the hesitation? Why move so slowly? If this is truly a pivotal moment, why aren't we acting with the urgency it demands?" Secretary Healey responded by saying he completely rejected that characterization. What's your take on everything we've covered today? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more UK-focused content. Thanks for watching. Take care, and see you next time.